In many of the analysis of humanity, the people with wisdom indicate that men act like robots. They're on a sort of automatic action. They do things in response to other things. There is no reflection. And essentially, if there is an interest by man in coming to know reality, in coming to know themselves, in coming to understand the nature of being, there has to be reflection. There has to be a time that is spent by each of us asking ourselves, what are we doing? And why are we doing it? These questions lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves. If we are not cognizant of what we are doing and why we are doing it, it can be said that we're asleep. It can be said that we're robotic. So to break out of that robotic tendency to just continue to do what we're doing takes a step where we step aside and we look at ourselves. And it's necessary to look at ourselves. A path without reflection is a path that doesn't have a purpose set by intention. It has a purpose set by external situations. It has a purpose set by reaction to external stimuli that are not in our control. So we, each of us, needs to understand the difference between being in control of our actions, being cognizant of our actions, and having actions that are in fact intended. To go on a path, you have to know the direction. If you have a goal, you have to have a map. You have to have a guide. You have to have a methodology to get from place A to B. But if you have no goal, if you have no set intention, if you have no idea of what it is you're looking to accomplish, then you will be moving forward without any real aspect of what you're doing. So, what is it that we have to do? First, we have to set an intention, and we have to constantly set intentions. And what are the nature of appropriate intentions? We need to know what they are. We need to know what it is we want to accomplish. We need to know where we are heading. We need to have some idea of the trajectory of our life and our lifestyle. To get a handle on this trajectory and to steer it in the appropriate reaction takes setting up appropriate intentions. The rising of intention within you has enormous effect on you. You see, the intention will set off a series of events within within you, inside of you, that will give rise to wisdom that is commensurate to that intention. Now, in this world, there are many people who look like men or women, but in fact, they are animals. And their reactions internally are animalistic reactions. They deal simply with taking care of themselves and providing for their needs. This is their existence, and this is the extent of their intention. And as long as that is the intention, as long as that is what one is striving for, wisdom commensurate to that intention will rise. So the best that one can do who's striving to provide for themselves in an animalistic way is to reach the kind of wisdom that animals have, which is an incredibly limited wisdom as opposed to what's available to man, which is a much higher form of wisdom. And we need, each of us individually, to be aware of the spectrum of our actions and the reasoning behind the spectrum of our actions. The question of why do we do things has to be constantly asked of ourselves. And this is reflection. This is looking at our own actions and coming to conclusions as to why we do things. Now, if you look at qualities, things that are beyond form, one can see that there is a wide range of qualities that we can become involved in. There's a wide range of qualities that we can act on. And our actions in this life reflect the nature of the qualities that we have imbibed and the nature of the qualities that we find important to our being. Now, at the base level, there's knowing the difference between right and wrong. So there are correct qualities which lead to correct actions, and there are wrong qualities which lead to wrong actions. But if we enjoy through the lower levels of our being, because we have the ability to rise and fall from the lowest animal to the highest form of wisdom, if we enjoy what low animals enjoy, we will stay in a state that is not transcendent, that doesn't enter into wisdom, but stays in what's called the nefs amara, or the lowest level of the soul, or the lowest level of being. We have to, each of us, individually strive to get out of that low level of being. And there are many things that hold us in place. There are many things that don't allow us to get out from under the lowest level of being. There was a professor who walked into his class carrying a glass of water that was half full. And of course, immediately all the students assumed he was going to ask the usual question, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? But he didn't ask that question. He said, how much does this glass weigh? And all of them came up with answers that essentially said, it's very light. It doesn't weigh very much at all. And he says, that's true. Now, imagine if you held it for an hour. Would it change the amount that it weighed? Imagine if you held it for 5 hours. Would it change the amount that it weighed? Imagine if you had to carry it with you all the time and could never put it down. Would it change the amount that it weighed? And everyone in the class began to understand that the longer you carry something, the heavier it becomes for you and the more difficult it becomes for you, even though at the outset it may have been a very light thing. And for each of us, we are constantly beset by trials and tribulations and difficulties that enter into our mind. And the question that we need to understand about ourselves is, how long do we hold on to these things before we can let them go? And if we hold on and can't let them go, even the slightest difficulty, the slightest problem can grow and grow and grow as long as it stays with you and you can't let it go. So one of the lessons that we have to learn for ourselves in watching ourselves is, how long do we hold on to things? How long do we stay with things? How long before we can move on, or are we held in place by everything that attacks us from this illusory world? Are we held in place because we have to deal with these things? You'll notice, if you watch television, that on many shows, prior to a commercial, they will do something that you have to wait, or you're induced to wait to see what happens, which makes you sit through the commercial. Can you just turn the station and not watch and find out what happens next? In the same way, can we let go of what we're holding on to without a solution, because a solution isn't necessary? There are so many things in our lives that don't need solutions that we're trying to resolve. And we build up a backlog of things that we need to resolve that don't need resolution, that take up our entire life, take up all of the time that we have. And these kinds of things can be in different ratios. For instance, the need to decorate your house. For some people, this can go on their entire life and they never stop. And it becomes the obsession in their existence. And it's that glass of water that they carry all the time. Any of these small things that stop us from becoming a true man, because they focus us on minutia, have to be let go of. If we've been wronged by somebody, do we hold on to that for so long that we can't go on with our life? If we've had a dispute with somebody, do we hold on to that for so long that we can't go on with our life? We have to be able to move forward. When we pray, or when we say the Fatiha, one of the lines in the Fatiha is, take us on the straight path. Well, to be taken on the straight path, we, each of us individually, has to intend to go on the straight path. So if your intention is to move forward towards Allah and coming to know Allah, it means that we have to give less importance to all of the worldly things that we are attached to. We have to prioritize our existence. And the only way that we can do this is to reflect upon our existence. If we don't spend time looking at our own actions, seeing what we do, seeing how we do it and why we do it, we will continuously repeat the same acts over and over and over again. And somehow we need to get out of that robotic stance. We need to be able to somehow do that. And we can do that. We can do it by actually verbalizing our situations and our difficulties. Verbalization and putting into words, trying to define for ourselves what's going on in ourselves, takes the mystery out of what's driving us, takes the mystery out of what's making us do things. So through being able to verbalize internally what's going on, we'll be able to help us set our intention for what we want to go on. And this can be done in conversation with Allah. And each of us should have conversation with Allah. Conversation with Allah is a form of prayer. Allah, this is what's going on within me right now. My attitude is such that it's stopping me from moving forward because of the following reasons. I'm stuck in this place, and this is the nature of how I'm stuck, and I need help in order to move myself forward. Now, each of us has a different drama going on in our life. Each of us has a different set of scenarios that are going on in our lives. But the commonality that we all have is we all have dramas, and we all have these scenarios. None of us are without them. They may appear vastly different to us, one from the other, and we think our lives are so different one from the other, but in truth, they're incredibly similar. They're just different plays, but we're still all actors. They're different plays, but we're still all playing parts. They're different plays, and from the point of view of a human, they seem to be different, and they bring about different reactions and different emotions. That's why you keep going to the movies, because they seem to be different. But after a while, you'll realize that all plays have the same basic setup within them. All of them are based on certain elements that make them work as a play, make them work as a drama, and bring about the expected reaction from the audience. Well, each of us is involved in a play. Each of us is an actor in a play. Each of us is driven by lust. Lust brings about illusion. Illusion is centered in the mind. The mind is a dark place where the glitters and the fascinations of existence create scenarios. We play out these scenarios that have occurred in our mind become our life. We become the actors who play out these scenes in our life, and this act becomes who we think we are, and this act is a dream. And that's why we act like robots. We need to break through all of this. We need to expose the drama. We need to expose the nature of the drama. We need to expose the lust. We need to expose the delusion. We need to expose the ignorance. We need to expose what we don't understand and bring us into knowledge and into wisdom. We need to break through all of the things that are holding us back from understanding reality. And what are some of the basics that hold us back? The world is too real for us. We believe that it really is our existence. The fact that it's illusory doesn't make sense to us because everything our senses tell us is that it's real. We have too strong a belief in our senses. We hold on to what we see as if it was real. And you know the sayings, don't believe anything that you hear and only half of what you see. There's somebody understood this, but can we understand it? That the eyes that see the world are not seeing the entire picture. The ears that hear the world are not hearing the entire picture. There's more to this picture. The scientists have begun to explore the subatomic world and to describe, they are trying to describe the subatomic world, but they have difficulty describing it. But what they do know is that it's nothing at all like the world that we see with our eyes. It's nothing at all like the things we touch with our hands. It's something entirely different. And when we can get to the point that we understand that we are living in different worlds simultaneously, we can begin to get a sense of the illusory nature of this existence. Just remember, from the time you were a child and your worldview when you were a child, and then your worldview when you were a teenager, and your worldview when you were in your 20s or 30s, then your worldview when you were in your 50s or 60s, and then your worldview when you were in your 70s, like some of us are. The point is that the view of existence keeps changing, and it will continue to keep changing. We are limited as to what we can see. We are limited as to what we know. So we should, through reflection, understand this limitation and begin to realize that it is necessary for us, in order to find truth, to have faith in the ones who saw more than we did, to have faith in the ones who understood this existence more than we did, to have faith in the prophets, to have faith in the friends of God, and to have faith in the ones that were sent to explain to us the nature of reality. And then we have to incorporate what they've told us and make it part of our belief system, even though we may not yet see it in its entirety. Ali said, when you pray, you should pray as if you see God, even though you don't. So at least imagine that you see him. At least intend to see him. At least intend to put your being in a place where there is a communication and a direct connection. And don't worry about how vibrant that resonance is within you as to that connection. Have faith that it will come, and God willing, glimpses of it will come for you. Signs will be shown to you. Things will open up for you in ways that in the past seemed closed. Things will reveal themselves when the appropriate faith is tied into the appropriate intention, and the appropriate wisdom for that intention rises within you. And then you begin to change. You begin to become different. You begin to react different. Things in the world don't have the same hold on you that they did before. Emotional responses become less intense than they did before, because now you understand better the nature of illusion. And it's necessary for us to understand the nature of illusion. It's necessary to understand the tricks that are constantly being played on us by this world, and the things that this world makes us think and feel. There are some really simple examples. In the world of sports, for those of you who follow sports, people have catharsis over who wins or loses a game, whether their favorite team is successful or not. Now, during the actual playing of the game, this catharsis is going on. After the game is over, there's a period of emotional response to the loss or to the win. But a week later, when rational thought seeps back in, how important, in fact, was this for your life? How much did it have to do with anything in your existence? And this example is just one of millions that hold us in place where we have an emotional, overwhelming reaction for absolutely no reason. My wife tells a story about the two of us when we were first married. And I would come home from work and I was usually intense because I had just started doing what I was doing. I wasn't used to it yet, and I used to carry it with me all the time, so I could be a little difficult. And her attitude towards me was, well, if you're difficult, I'm going to be difficult, and I'm going to be more difficult than you're going to be. And over a short period of time, she realized, at least over the first few years, that I came home from work the same way every day. What happened in our household after I came home was not dependent on me. It was dependent on her. So if she could react differently to me, the whole situation would change. So instead of becoming more difficult, she gave me tea, or she made me a sandwich, or she did something to lighten the situation. This is reflection. This is looking at a situation and coming to some kind of conclusion as to what can be done about it. Attitude is so important. A man is sitting in a field and it's time for prayer. So he takes out his rug and lays it down in the field. And while he's praying, a young lady is walking through the field and she passes by in front of him. Now, the etiquette in a mosque is that you're not supposed to walk in front of somebody while they're praying. So he noticed her and immediately reacted to her and told her that she was breaching appropriate behavior because she was walking in front of him while she was praying. Well, she responded, I didn't even see you. And I was going to my boyfriend's house and I was thinking about him. Now, while I was thinking about my boyfriend, why weren't you thinking about prayer? What did I have to do with your equation? What did I have to do with what you were involved in? And this again requires reflection as opposed to an automatic response. We need to be able to look at things in a reflective way and come to a conclusion about what we can do to help each situation become closer to the straight path. So, how can we take situations that are out of whack and bring them into peace? How can we take situations that are difficult and bring them into peacefulness? What can we do to take situations that aren't just and bring them into justice? What can we do to take situations that are in need of healing and help them heal? Can we become healers in this world? Can we bring peace to this world? Or are we constantly just adding to the noise that's going on around us and to the conflict that's going on around us? We need to bring peace into our own lives. Until you are at a state of peacefulness, it's impossible for us to transcend this illusory world and enter into a place of wisdom which understands this illusory world. So if we don't have peace, we have to look at ourselves and ask, why don't I have peace? What are all of the minor irritations that keep me from being peaceful? And how can I abandon my attachment to these minor irritations? You know, some people can't get along without their irritations. They've grown to love their irritations. and their intention becomes to be irritable. Well, your intentions become who you are. Your intentions become the nature of your actions. And unless we can put our intentions in order, we will never find the straight path. So we have to talk directly to our Creator, and we have to tell Him to make us straight, make us real, bring us to a place where our intentions are in accordance with His intentions. And what are His intentions for us? For us to commune with Him, for us to know His qualities, for us to understand His being, and to surrender to those transcendent qualities that are His. And it begins with being at peace. So we ask, may Allah bring all of us to that state where we are peaceful. May Allah take us all to that place where we are not easily put off from the straight path, that we don't become wanderers, but we become people with an intense intention to go towards reality, to find truth, to be with truth, and to be the ones who bring truth with them into every situation. Blessed are the peacemakers. May we become those peacemakers. Ameen, ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.